Member for Wakehurst.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Women, the Prevention of Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. When will the details of successful projects under Tranche 2 of the Core and Cluster Women's Refuge program be publicly announced so people on the Northern Beaches and indeed across the state can know what services and facilities will exist and when to meet the urgent needs of women and their children fleeing domestic and family violence?
Minister.
Well, I thank the member for Wakehurst for his question, and I also thank him for his interest in issues relating to domestic violence and supporting women and children who are affected by and want to leave domestic violence in his electorate. I know it's not a new interest. I received correspondence from the member when he was the mayor of Northern Beaches last year and responded, and I know that he is quite passionate in this area. Speaker, domestic and family violence is heartbreakingly present in communities right across our state. The intersectionality of experiences of domestic and family violence with disability, with culture, with socio-economic status, and with a multitude of other factors result in some communities being disproportionately affected more than others. But no community is free of domestic violence across this state, and the beautiful Northern Beaches of Sydney are no exception. The Core and Cluster program mentioned by the member for Wakehurst expands the delivery of women's refuges in communities across New South Wales, and once it's fully implemented, it will result in an additional 2,900 women and children being supported to leave domestic and family violence each and every year. The Core and Cluster model moves away from the traditional shared living style of accommodation, and it offers more flexible, more private, more independent living spaces, giving more dignity to women and children, and in some cases to their beloved pets. Funding for the Core and Cluster program has occurred over 3 tranches, and each has begun with an expression of interest, followed by a request for tender process, and the Tranche 3 EOI process will close on the 25th of July this year, so very soon. Now, as many members in this place would be aware, the procurement of Tranches 1 and 2 has been completed, resulting in 39 approved projects, and I spoke to the member for Tamworth about this yesterday. The Core and Cluster model is, by its very nature, it's a community place-based, importantly, a community place-based approach to safety for women and children. DCJ is currently working through the tender and the contract negotiations for the successful Tranche 2 tenderers, and at this stage, contract negotiations for those 39 sites is in varying stages of completion, and I look forward to sharing more information with local communities as these negotiations progress and as they're finalised. Having said that, I'm very pleased to be able to share with the member for Wakehurst that one of the projects successful in receiving funding through Tranche 2 of the Core and Cluster procurement.
Member for Wakehurst.
I was thinking extension because I would like to hear the rest of the answer.
I'm sure. I grant an additional 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very pleased to be able to share with the member for Wakehurst that one of the projects successful in receiving funding through Tranche 2 of the Core and Cluster procurement will serve women and children on the Northern Beaches. Located in Mona Vale, this Core and Cluster is led by Women's Community Shelters, and it's being done in partnership with Bridge Housing, which is a Tier 1 community housing provider, which I'm sure the member for Wakehurst is familiar with. I'm advised by DCJ that building design and DA processes are currently underway, and that capital works are planned for completion by December this year, with the expectation of service delivery to be following shortly thereafter. So, and I'm pleased also to say that on completion it will offer 4 self-contained units for women and children escaping domestic and family violence, importantly, with services and supports delivered by Women's Community Shelters. Again, I thank the member for Wakehurst for his interest in and commitment to services which quite literally save the lives of women and children in his electorate. And I look forward to sharing more information about core and cluster sites as I'm able to, as the contracts are finalised, along with the network of local community-based supports and services available to women and children experiencing family and domestic violence across New South Wales communities.
So the member for Gosport.